As this journey went on, there was a time when he came to me and said, and I knew right away what he meant, and I don't know how I knew this, but he said, I want to be able to communicate with my brothers and sisters directly through you. Now, you think Helen was an intellectual, so was I. Had degrees in philosophy, psychology, channeling. God, that New Age bullshit. This is insane. It's like, those of us that really know, of course know, there's no such thing as channeling. Wouldn't be caught dead in that neighborhood. So more fear came up. And I want to share an experience around this because I had demanded. I'm blown away by people who say, oh, I talk to Jesus, I write these books. And I go, well, did you ever doubt it? Did you ever like not trust it? And they go, well, no, why? I go, this blows me away. It's like, how do you do that? It's like, I demanded proof. So you've got to prove to me you are who you say you are, and you know my mind, it's going to take a hell of a lot. You, the onus is on you. To which he said, very well. And this process began. And the channeling thing started only because I reached a point where my fear was so deep and the tension in my mind was there all the time. I tried to not go there. I didn't want to do it. I'm probably the most reluctant channel you'll ever meet. And I didn't realize at the time that I had so much fear that I will get in the way. You know, it's like, I fuck up everything else, I'll fuck this up too. I'm unworthy. Oh, go get somebody else. Blah, blah, blah. So, but I finally reached a point where I realized that there was absolutely no way I will ever know what this is really about, or even if it's real, unless I submit myself to it. Gulp. I'll never know. I'll never be free. I'll never know. And I finally realized, you know what? I would rather have this take me into insanity or toss me on the streets, but at least I will know whether this is real or not. That became the thing that mattered to me the most. That was the tension that finally compelled me to say, okay, I still don't believe you're who you say you are. I haven't got a clue what's going to happen. I'm scared to death, but fuck. I'll never know what this is if I keep resisting. I'll never know. It's like a catch-22. I think Brent mentioned catch-22. Oh, great. I'm going to surrender to some dude without a body who says he's going to channel through my body. Where do I go? It's like, what? I'm homeless in the cosmos all of a sudden? What? Geez. Do I get to charge rent or what? I mean, God. So, I was actually terrified of the whole thing. So on Friday nights, and this is in the book too, I came home from Hawaii where I made this decision. When I finally surrendered and said, okay, he said, very well, this is the moment I've waited for. Please return home to Tacoma and I'll begin to gather friends. How's he going to do that? You know, no internet back then. So went back to Tacoma, the first evening happened, and I want to just share for a moment what this experience was like for me. First of all, I felt like I was having one of those living dreams that kids have sometimes. You ever have the dream of you're going to your school, 3rd grade, and you get to school and you realize you're totally naked? You know, that it's a fear thing that comes in kids as they're growing up sometimes. That's how I felt. Because I was being asked to sit in a chair with no friggin' clue how to do what's going to happen or understanding anything of how the process even works energetically, and I didn't even know if the guy was real. I'm going to sit in a chair in front of human beings and not have a clue. I'm not in control. This terrified me, my fear of not being in control. Anybody had fear of not being in control? Yeah, it's universal. And of course, once he said to me, my beloved brother, what would you seek to control save that which you distrust? Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, my people, will get back to your people. Isn't that the only reason we control? Because we do not trust. There is no other reason. Did I know that then? No! I was terrified. Control, you can't give up control. That's when all the shit hits the fan. And I got no control here. So I would sit in the chair, and he'd give me a prayer to do. Made it into a meditation CD called In the Name. And every time I joined with him, this is interesting, he told me to take my middle finger and put it on my third eye. And as I did the prayer, just to gently kind of stroke from the third eye down to the bridge of the nose. Okay, Jayem, you said you were going to trust this insane, non-physical, possibly non-existing being. Started doing this prayer, and I found that it did something, like it got the hemispheres of the brain to relax more deeply as I was doing this prayer in the name. Then this process would begin. My body would start to feel very weird, like something's changing in the cells, and I don't know what it is. Did somebody slip me a nice drug? What is this? And this process would continue, and as this feeling or vibration in the body began to change, I would also then simultaneously begin to be aware of a circle of, I'll just call them light beings, I don't know what else to call them, kind of shapes like human bodies, but not bodies, shimmering light. And they would encircle the entire room. And I'm like a kid in Einstein's lab. I haven't got a friggin' clue what I'm looking at, or what any of this is, or how it works. It's like Einstein said, come on into my lab, kid. He knows how to operate the apparatus, I don't. So that would happen, and then I would, in my inner mind, I would see him, and I would feel him, and this energy would come behind my back. I would feel it up and down my spine, and around this area behind. And I would see colors change. It would go from like a violet purple and become increasingly lighter to kind of a golden white light. And always right about that moment, he would say, everything is prepared, and I'm going to begin now. Bam, and that'd be it. I mean, I would totally lose awareness. Sometimes it would feel like I was taken out of my body and I was in a whole different dimension, and I knew I was with him and he was sharing or teaching or doing something with me, but I was in a whole different dimension. The process would go on back in those days for sometimes several hours. He'd start at like 7 at night, and he would be there as long as anybody wanted to continue. And then when he got done, he would say to me, I would hear him, he'd say, this evening's sharing is complete now. And I would start to feel his energy withdraw through all this spinning light and color. I would become aware of my body, but I would see it from like this great height, like it was descending toward my own body. And then it felt like a jolt. It would be like the boom, like it would land in my body again and feel it again and feel this dimension. And it was always a jolt. And back at that, in those early stages, it would sometimes take a half an hour, 45 minutes for me to be able to open my eyes. It was like everything had to get rewired. It was as if my soul had gotten unplugged, taken away. He picked up the instrument, did his thing. Then he said, okay, thanks, I'm done with the instrument now. See ya. Well, not quite like that, but... And then, here you go, here's your instrument back. I did, but wait a minute, how do I plug back in? And it would take time, and I would finally start to feel the body and get my toes to move. It would just take time. It was a very odd experience. But what the channeling process taught me so clearly as a direct experience is I truly am soul and not body. And I began to realize it's the body, it's not me, and it's not mine. That was one of those big revelations. This isn't mine. I thought it was me. You know, me, myself, and I. The body, and it isn't. It's an instrument. And from there, it doesn't even look like it does from here. Anyway, it's pretty trippy. So as this process continued, every Friday night, more and more people came, and the word was getting out. Every Friday, I was in a state of panic. So it's like, oh, fuck, oh, God, oh, not again, oh, Friday, I'm going to get in the way, oh, shit, oh, I got to try to breathe, maybe some yoga, a cup of wine, something, anything. Oh, I got to calm my nerves. If I don't calm my nerves, I'll get in the way. He won't be able to do this. Did I see the arrogance of this? No. Joshua's not going to be able to complete his desired task unless I make sure everything's okay. Anybody had that thought before? Ay. Golly. So one night I was in my office downstairs trying my best to, and my mind, my ego mind's going, what on earth did you ever agree to do this for? This is the stupidest thing you've ever done. My God, spinning. And one night he came in, he was there in the room, kind of as a shimmering light, and he goes, my brother, please open your Bible. My what? I knew I had one somewhere because my mom had given me one thinking someday I might read it. So I looked for it and I found it on a shelf under a bunch of other stuff down there in the corner. So I pulled it out and he said, I want you to open to the book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah. You mean like the bullfrog? It's like, so I had to look in the index. Is there a Jeremiah? And this is true. Every time he would say to do something, my mind would be going, I bet there isn't even a book of Jeremiah. Then I'll know it's just my mind. Never worked. He was always right on. So I opened up the index, went, oh, Jeremiah, okay, page whatever, open it up. He said, start reading at the first verse. And so I started reading. And then it got to verse, I think it was 6 or 7, something. He said, now stop. I want you to read the next verse out loud. And the words were, I shall put words in thy mouth, thus saith the Lord. Whoa. I couldn't even give him my usual, my people will get back to your people. I was speechless. And again, it was one of those moments of the ways he was proving he is who he says he is. He's not just a figment of my own mind. Because I didn't even know there was a book of Jeremiah, and I sure as hell didn't know those words were there. I had no idea that I'd be reading them. It impacted me. It was just being hit by a wave of humility. And as I sat there, he then said, my beloved brother, do you yet continue to believe that you have such great power that you can prevent me from communicating with my friends? got me good with that one. There are many such moments of that in which he continued to prove the authenticity of his existence to me, and that he's the one doing the speaking through the body. Yes, he's using this body, he's using my language structure, but he sure didn't use it the way I used it. Radically different. And I would listen to the tapes we made then, and I would just be blown away. It was too surreal. It's like, that's my voice. Those are not my thoughts. It's like, how? It's like, this is just too wild. I couldn't wrap my mind around it at all. That's good. When you finally you can't wrap your mind around it, you got to give the sucker up. You know, this is good. So the channeling thing, continued, and he continued to prove his authenticity to me. I remember one weekend I'd gone up to these hot springs up in Olympic National Park. I was, going through my turmoil, my growth, my doubt, and all of that stuff. And I went up there to sit in the hot springs. And I started to walk to this hot springs, and he came into my mind, and he said something to me. He said, "My beloved brother, you are nearing now a very important choice point in which only you can decide whether you will follow your true heart and trust me to continue the journey that I will take you on back to the Father, or to elect to delay it again." And he said, "I would highly advise that you make the choice to truly follow your heart." Yeah, of course you would. So I go to the hot springs, and as I'm walking up to the hot springs, there's somebody already there. This is out in the middle of nowhere. You're just out through the forest. There's somebody there, and I stopped and went, "Oh, I don't want to disturb him." And Joshua said, "No, go." Okay, so I walked on, and there's this wild guy. He's got like long hair, and he's got this big smile on his face, and naked as a jaybird, soaking in there. He's just, oh, who's this guy, And I get in the tub with him, and he looked at me. He just sat there, he kept staring at me. I'm like, nice stars tonight. And he looked at me, and then he leaned forward, and this is what he said. He said, "Isn't it wonderful to know that all we got to do is follow our heart?" Who sent you? I said, "Oh, this is too much. What's going on here? Jeez." Then I leave the mountain, interesting symbol. I come back to Tacoma, and that evening we were having another gathering. And the thing went on. Joshua did his thing, came back into my body. And often what would happen is that when I was back in the body, the voltage going through it was a very different vibration that I was used to or could sustain. I would have like high level of energy, and everything was, being a child of the 60s, it reminded me of a few Saturday evenings popping certain chemicals. In a Star Wars movie where everything, he touches a wall and it goes boing, boing, boing. It was like that. I would walk outside sometimes till 3, 4 in the morning, this energy state, and the trees were luminescent, and everything was like liquid light, and everything was transparent. It's like, my God, I can see through the garage. Oh, this could be handy. Let's see. So it was just like, whoa, and I'd have to just be with it until it finally would begin to subside, and then I would just crash. I'd be like, I got to go to bed. So this one evening, when I came back from the mountain, Joshua did his thing, he finished, and I came back in my body. Everybody was gone. It was about midnight, 11:30, something like that. And I'm kind of putting things away and getting ready to go for my long walk. And there's a knock on the door. So, okay, Okay, opened it up, and it was a woman who had been coming every Friday night. And she's very apologetic. She goes, I'm so sorry to bother you. I know you must be just really wanting to go to bed or rest. And I wish I could. But she goes, I went and got in my car. I started my car. I turned off my car. I started my car. I wanted to go home. But frankly, Joshua was talking to me. I go, really? She goes, yeah. And he was pretty insistent that I give you a message. Is it okay if I give you a message? I go, well, yeah. So she goes, I have no idea what this means, but I'm knocking on your door to tell you that he said to tell you it's time to choose to follow your heart. But that time it dropped in, and I gave her a big hug, and I said, thank you for your courage to hear him and also to follow up. This is very, very important to me. You don't know why, but it's very important. So those things continued for some time, in which I demanded proof of his existence. I honestly don't know how somebody could have this experience and not want proof. They have far greater faith than me. So the reason I'm sharing that is twofold. One, it took me 9 years. 9 years. Yes, I had submitted to this journey with him for the reason I told you. I'll never know if I don't. That's what was really driving me. It wasn't because I was like, oh cool, I sit down, Joshua's here, of course, natural. Yeah, it wasn't that at all. It was something else. And of course, everything he was teaching me was radically changing my consciousness. I was beginning to notice finally moments of peace. Little, like somebody's blowing a little air into my balloon. It's getting a little more spacious. But it still took me 9 years to fully, completely, he is who he says he is. He means what he says. The evidence I was accumulating from what he was teaching me and the changes going on had even begun to convince my mind that there was a way to heal from all pain. And as I came to realize that, it just flowered this profound desire to follow him. I wanted to know everything he knew. I wanted to know how to be the way he is. I began to realize that every time he came to me on a daily basis to work with me on my own stuff, whenever he was doing his channeling stuff, no matter how much resistance I had, no matter how many times I said, yeah, I'll start that practice tomorrow, and then didn't, every time I got angry or upset and tried to get away from him again, every time I came back, he was always the same. Always the same. Perfect patience. Perfect love. Never this, I told you so. None of that. He just met me where I was as if we were just beginning. That had a huge impact on me. Just that. This feeling of such spacious patience, meeting me where I am 1,000 million times. You have no idea. I didn't know the acronym for fuck then. I still meant it the other way, like, fuck you. You have no idea how many times I screamed that at him. The ego does like to put up a fight. And my ego put up a hell of a fight. But at least somebody in this relationship knew the end was certain. Thank God. I just felt, thank you for letting me share that about this journey with him, because I've become convinced that when you listen to any of the tapes or you're with the Way of Mastery, you're getting the real deal. I know it's the real deal because he proved to me that it's the real deal. That it's not my mind getting in the way or coloring anything. It's what he wants to share directly with you. That makes sense? Yeah, so, let's all take a nice deep breath. Thank you for letting me kind of share that with you. As you take a breath, imagine more and more people are showing up, and guess what? The Course community is starting to hear about this. But I don't know anything about the Course. I'm not part of the Course community. It's like, I had no idea what he'd been teaching me. Had a lot of the same wording and some of the same lessons and things from the Course. So in one night in one of these channelings, it ended, and afterwards some people were hanging around. And a gentleman came up to me and said, wow, I really want to thank you for that. I asked Joshua a question, and it was just amazing. He quoted this entire long paragraph from the Course, and then he went on to share what this meant in my own journey. It was really wonderful. I'm going, oh, okay. He looked at me and he goes, well, I've been studying the Course for 3 years. How long have you been studying it? I've never read it. And at the same moment, we just went, oh my God. It's like it was one of those moments for me and also for him that impact us with the reality that how could this be me? I've never read the Course. Haven't got a clue what it says. And I looked at him and I just went, oh, thank you. Thank you for, again, what we talked about earlier, the grace. What made him stay longer that night to share that with me? Because it impacted me very deeply as one more proof that this is not my own mind. And boy, did I need a lot of proofs. A lot of proofs. And he provided them. And he's kept providing them anytime there's been a moment of doubt. Anytime.